What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Viall Files. I'm your host, Nick, joined by Allie and Amanda. And boy, do we have a fantastic episode for you. Ladies, how are you doing? You weren't ready for that? Why? No, Allie, you have to talk first.
Yeah, Allie.
Well, seeing as I just texted my mom saying, I guess Nick is out through Monday now, and she said, book your flights home, I've been better.
Like what?
Because you're traveling, I might travel because I don't want to sleep in my apartment now.
Oh, that's right, because you had a SWAT team.
Yeah, my SWAT team used my apartment as like a nice little like dugout area. Just, you know, because I had proper aim to the unit they were trying to break into. So
you can dog sit Jeff.
Just chill at your place.
Would
Kiki and Jeff be friends?
Jeff needs to. I don't know. I don't know if your dog is nice.
She's like a moody old lady. She's like 9. She's just chilling.
It's an option.
Could I dress them up?
I've met both of your dogs, and I'm trying to, with my matchmaker brain, consider what it would look like. And I'm like, I think the first few minutes would be really crucial because I feel like when Jeff is chilling and vibing,
calm, but at first he's excited.
Yeah, and if Kiki reacted negatively to that within the first few minutes, I think it would really set them on the wrong path.
She would probably bark at him, but she wouldn't do anything beyond that. She'd be like, pipe down, baby.
It's an option.
It's true. I appreciate it. I did debate, guys. It was 3 a.m. I was on my sidewalk having been evacuated. So, the SWAT team could use my apartment. And I was standing in my Skims robe. And I was like, should I call Nick and see if I can use his guest bedroom and get in an Uber?
Nick is like, do I want to set this precedent?
Yeah,
Nick is like very carefully considering what he says next because he's like, how much do I want to be expected? It's all about expectations.
Yeah.
You're just the only one I knew with a bedroom. That's it.
I feel like in that moment, I'd say yes. You were in danger somewhat.
Yes, correct. Correct. There was
a
man with a gun.
I feel like this is a reflection of like, I don't pay you enough to just say, go get a hotel in LA.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm glad you're okay.
Thank you.
Well, we have a great episode for you. The very charming, successful Charly Jordan is with us and really enjoyed our conversation with Charly. Talking about all aspects of life, her career, music, social media, stereotypes of OnlyFans, dating,
religion. She talks a lot about religion, growing up in the Mormon church.
Yeah. I mean, you've downloaded and listened to the episode. I don't know we're trying to sell it. Just keep listening. I feel like we do that a lot, or it's just like...
I feel like you got to give the people...
Don't turn this off,
For the love of God, please.
Like if they accidentally tuned in... If you're here for Charly, because you're a Charly fan, welcome. We have a very successsul podcast that you should subscribe and tell your friends about. If you find yourself, we do this thing called Ask Nick on Mondays. We give relationship advice. If you find yourself in a situationship or problems in your relationship, you don't know what to do, you've exhausted your friends, we got you covered. Trust me, people have said it's changed their life. It's not me, it's them. I'm not bragging. We're not bragging. Humbly, we appreciate the support of our audience. So check us out. Other than that, if you do find yourself watching reality TV like The Bachelor, Bachelorette, we recap that when that's on. So other than that, yes, subscribe. We appreciate you listening. And let's get to Charly. What's up, Charly?
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on.
I appreciate you coming. It's been a while since I've seen you.
Has been a little while.
What you been up to?
A lot
Loaded
since we first saw each other. I was living in Santa Monica. You said you were living in Venice.
Yeah.
Running into each other. I feel like everyone in that area kind of just crosses paths at some point.
Yeah. What was it? Was it the bungalow?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's always a shameful Saturday when you find
Bungalow
yourself at the bungalow.
is a good time. I lived on 3rd and Wilshire, so I lived right next to Bungalow, walking distance. So I would go. Just get hammered and walk home.
And then I ran into your then ex.
Yes. Yeah, Robert's great. I think he still lives in Santa Monica. That's his vibe. He's been there for a long time. So I definitely feel like people who live down there, it's people who've been in LA for a while already and can afford to live over in that area. It was so funny because I was 19 and I was I'm going to go live in Santa Monica. And I was trying to pay $6,000 a month for rent. at 19. I was like, this is a little difficult.
It's an aggressive goal, but you're doing fine.
No,
So you opted for Beverly Hills.
Opted for Beverly Hills. No, I actually moved to Sherman Oaks afterwards, and I lived there for a little while. But the intenseness of the cost of living in LA definitely pushed me to want to make more money so I could be comfortable.
That's still a pretty impressive accomplishment for someone, I mean, as young as you are or were. And did you come from money? Like, where did you, where were you? I wasn't able to, like, I was eating like Little Caesars pizza every day because I didn't have money, and you're living in Santa Monica and Beverly Hills. How did you get started, and how did you become such a success at such an early part of your life?
So that is another loaded question. I love it. I got into, timing is very important with anything, and I think with social media, timing is also of the essence. But basically, I was 16, 17 years old when social media started getting really big, and you couldn't really make money off of it at the time. But what happened was I came from a very conservative family. My whole family's LDS, like Mormon. So never really considered doing social media as a job. I just really enjoyed taking pictures, making videos, being artistic. That was something that I always really loved. And Instagram was just the platform for that at the time. I went from MySpace onto Tumblr, Pinterest, and then Instagram became a thing.
Do you ever miss MySpace?
MySpace, you were literally having to like learn how to do coding.
Yeah.
Put your background image.
I used to be an accountant instead of like crunching numbers. That was the only and ever time I've learned how to like code something.
Same.
Because I had to like flip the background because it was like a left-right justification, and I learned how to do the coding. And it was an opportunity to be petty with your friends.
He's starting early, guys. Yeah, MySpace was interesting, but when I got on Instagram, it wasn't social media. It was just like a photo sharing platform. So jumped on there and did travel content. Like I just took pictures for fun. And like by my senior year of high school, which is super young, I was 18, I had 100,000 followers just from posting fun content. And then I started doing road trips because I could not afford to fly anywhere. So I was driving. I lived in Utah at the time, and I was driving to like the Salt Flats and Arches National Park and like Zion and all these beautiful places because Utah is amazing, and it neighbors like Colorado and Nevada, which just has incredible landscape scenery in general. So I started, it was definitely a conflict of interest at home and like doing that. I had a D1 scholarship, like a full ride to run track and field, and I decided to turn that down to pursue social media.
Where was the scholarship?
Cal State Fullerton here.
Wow.
And it was something that I worked for my whole life and sort of felt obligated to do just because, you know, I was told that my parents weren't going to be able to afford my college. So I was like, I have to get a scholarship. And I ended up not wanting to do that, which freaked everybody out. I tried to pursue social media, and I actually ended up leaving home when I was like halfway through my senior year / getting kicked out. And the only thing I really had was my phone and a car. So I started doing those road trips and then got up to like 1 million followers in a little under a year. And at that point I was able to like start flying places, and I grew really, really fast for my era. Like now it's ridiculous because TikTok, you know, people gain millions and millions
overnight.
The course of like, yeah, overnight. But for my time on Instagram, it was like unheard of for how quickly I grew. And so everyone was just like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, this is crazy. And just travel content, like a lot of people are not good at traveling. It's very uncomfortable. And I was in a different place like every other week, different bed, different hotel. I was working with tourism boards and just meeting up with other people who wanted to do social media in all these different places. So it went from like road trips into working, like I said, with tourism boards, traveling mostly to third world countries like Turks and Caicos, the Dominican Republic, South Africa. I was doing charity work simultaneously on these trips. So that's the reason I was working with the tourism boards, was I would go and like make a video and either tag the tourism board or tag the charity to bring awareness to it. So I did that for 2 years, which was, no one was doing that. It was like me and like a handful of other people. So obviously it caught a lot of attention on the internet. And then I kind of decided to settle down in LA because when you're traveling, you can't really get that much done. Like I was doing a lot of cool travel content and helping, but at some point I was just like by myself all the time. And I was like, I don't even have, like, I was meeting up with people, but no one was traveling as much as I was. So I loved being alone, but I hated feeling lonely. And so I was like, man, like I should probably have a home base instead of just like putting my shit in storage and swapping it out every other month and living out of a suitcase.
So were you doing this mostly by yourself, traveling?
Mm-hmm.
And where did that come from? Is that just that you as a person, like in terms of like who you are? Did your family travel much at a young age? Like, did you come from like kind of an adventurous family or?
Mm-hmm. My mom was always taking us everywhere. She moved me to Costa Rica when I was like 11 and I lived there for 2 years. We were always moving too, so I'm just used to kind of bouncing around. It's actually very hard for me to stay in one place for a long time just because that's the way I was raised. Like most people are really comfortable with.
I think that I hear that a lot with people who like were raised in a family that travels a lot or kind of have adventurous person. It's like almost like gets in your blood, so to speak.
It definitely did. It was amazing, but I also kind of just identified that I was partially running away from my problems as well, which is what my parents did. So
gotcha.
I was like, you know, I'm going to push myself and try to like build a community of people and not just, because obviously when you go somewhere, no one knows who the fuck you are. You could be whoever you want. And
that's a great point.
You can put yourself off however you want and nobody will know and you won't ever see them again, probably once you leave. So you can kind of get away with, you know, doing whatever. It was a lot easier. So
why do you think people, I mean, other than the obvious, because it is true when you move to a new place, no one knows who you are and we act different when that's the case. Like I've told the story, like I moved to Chicago a while back and I didn't really know anyone. So I just like walked into a bar by myself and sat at the bar and had got a drink. And then I started talking to the bartenders and I never would have done something like that in Milwaukee. Yep. But I was like, I don't know anyone. So I gave myself permission to be adventurous. And then I had this like thought of like, what was stopping me from ever doing this in Milwaukee other than like my own self-consciousness or insecurity about what people might think? Because the only difference between that and the two cities is I told myself it was okay. Yep. Like I told myself like, I'm not a loser.
I know.
You know? And it was such a weird thing. And I the response I got from like the bartenders, like that were women, were like, oh my God, like, well, you hear about yourself. And I was like, oh, I'm new. I don't know anyone.
That's
like,
it.
Oh my God, like have a free drink. And then they invited me to like concerts and things like that. And I always wondered to myself, like, why do we have a hard time? Why can't we always do stuff like that? Many of us.
Because there's a social hierarchy in society that very directly imitates high school, which bothers me a lot. It's very
do you think high school never stops?
Not really. That's part of the reason I also liked traveling was because, I gave myself permission to be like that 24/7. Like everywhere I went, I was the new person. So it really, you're not a part of a social hierarchy when you're traveling or when you're the new kid, right? Like you're not even a part of it or in it. So you allow yourself to be much more adventurous, much more outgoing, much more open to trying new things. But when you're in a society and you've known people for years and years and people treat you a certain way based off information they know about you or the clicks or the he said, she said with relationship stuff, like I really hate all of that. And I never fit in very well to it, even in high school. Like I was always the fucking girl that just like didn't talk to anyone. Like I did not enjoy high school. I don't enjoy the social norms of like society, which is why LA has been really hard for me to live here. Cause it's like multiplying everything times 10.
You know, I was just in Savannah, Georgia with Nally and her family, and she comes from a large family as well, and her dad was sitting around telling stories about, back in the day, and I gave Nally an idea, and she jumped all over it, giving her dad the beautiful gift of StoryWorth. With StoryWorth, she can give the gift of passing her father's stories on to her family for years to come. StoryWorth is an online service that helps you and your loved ones preserve precious memories and stories for years to come. It is a thoughtful and meaningful gift that connects you to those who matter most. Every week, StoryWorth emails your relative or friend a thoughtful, provoking question of your choice to their vast pool of possible options. Each unique prompt asks questions you've never thought to ask, like, what's the bravest thing you've ever done in life? Or if you could see into the future, what would you want to find out? After 1 year, StoryWorth will compile all your loved ones' stories, including photos, into a beautiful keepsake book that you'll be able to pass and share and revisit for generations to come. So give that gift of memories and thoughtfulness to your loved ones through StoryWorth. Can't say enough about how much my dad enjoyed it, and I'm sure Natalie's dad will too. With StoryWorth, I gave those I love the most a thoughtful personal gift from the heart and preserving their memory and stories for years to come. And now you can too. Go to storyworth.com/VIALL and save $10 on your first purchase. That's storyworth.com/VIALL to save $10 off your first purchase. BetterHelp. Hey, listen, go get therapy. It's the holiday. Maybe you're going through a breakup. Maybe you are just anxious about seeing family. I mean, there's plenty of reasons to be stressed out during this time of the year. Maybe you're having seasonal depression. That happens. BetterHelp is there to help you connect with the mental health care professional that you need. It's so great that therapy is becoming normalized and still can be a bit of a stressful process to kind of get over that hurdle of starting therapy. And BetterHelp is committed to making it easier on you. You can get started communicating with a therapist in under 48 hours. It's not a crisis line. It's not a self-help thing. It's professional counseling done securely online. There are a broad range of expertise available, which may not be locally available in many areas. Their service is available for clients worldwide. You can log in anytime, anywhere on your phone, your tablet, your computer. BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches so they can make it easy and free to change counselors if needed. BetterHelp wants you to start living a happier life today. Visit their website and read their testimonials that are posted daily. Visit BetterHelp.com/VIALLFILES. That is BetterHelp, HELP, and join over the 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional. In fact, so many people have been using BetterHelp that they are recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and Viall listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/Viall.
There's a lot of rules that are broken here socially, but there's also a lot that are very dramatized. And, like with the events and how many followers you have and how much money you make and all this stuff, it's just like a giant pissing match for everyone, like a competition. And it's so frustrating sometimes because I would like to believe that as adults we could separate work and personal, but it just has not happened.
Well, especially LA, that's a hard separation because like everyone's kind of hustling out here, and
everyone wants the same thing.
You're never not working in a sense because it's not your typical 9 to 5. So you don't really know when you're supposed to turn it off, and parties essentially turn into hustling events.
Yes, it's like networking and connecting. But
what were some of the problems you think you were running from when you say you're running from your problems?
I think that was one of them, was me feeling like I never fit in anywhere. So traveling was like, that was like, I fit in here. Like this is where I fit in, because it wasn't cliquey and it wasn't niche. Like it was just like talking to people and really connecting with them, which I really loved. Like sitting at the bar, right, and having like that honest conversation with those bartenders. Like there's not really anything like that was such a memorable thing for you. And I feel like I have so many of those memories from breaking those social norms, because when you do the same thing over and over again, it's like it can only be so enjoyable. So I don't like routine. I was running away from routine. I was running away from social norms. I was running away from, especially even like a family, right? Or having kids. Like I feel like that's a social norm within itself. And I saw that a lot within my family because they were Mormon. It's like, oh, the more kids you have, the more blessed you'll be. And so I was a part of like a social norm. Like I would like to believe that people do things genuinely because they want to and not just because it's expected of them. But a lot of people do things because it's expected of them. And then all these other problems happen because of it, like depression, anxiety. Like I believe that mental illness is not all mental illness, there's like clinical problems where It's like you're diagnosed with depression, anxiety, and you will struggle with it no matter what. There's a lot of situational depression as well, which I think people ignore over time. And then you start to see those problems unfold as you get older instead of like fixing it or clipping it at the root. Like I feel like my generation has been super fortunate, and I have been super fortunate to have the freedom to be who I am and not have to follow, right, like a social norm or what's expected of me. Like even my parents, like not going to college was just not an option. Like social media didn't exist. There was no like, I can have my own independent business. So I feel super fortunate that I'm able to solely make decisions and judge people based off their character of their person and not what I need from them or what the expectation is or trying to get somewhere, right? Like I don't need anything from anyone, which is really unique and cool to say as a 22-year-old female. Like, I don't have to, especially with guys. Like, I feel like guys always say they want like a strong, independent girl, but I'm like, I don't need your money. I don't need you to take care of me. I don't need any of this stuff. I'm like, I literally am just hanging out with you based on who you are as a person, and that's all I really care about.
So you don't think most guys mean that?
I think guys say that they want a strong, independent girl and then don't really know what to do when they get it. Because like I come with like I'm a lot. Like I'm not just do this for me and let's go on dates and this. Like I don't want to be someone's girlfriend. I want to be someone's best friend. That's all that really matters to me.
So other than being their best friends, what are some of your biggest expectations of your potential partner? I mean, are you dating?
I'm single right now.
Okay.
But I've been in relationships, I feel like a little bit like serial relationships for the past 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. So what are your biggest expectations of partners you've had that maybe didn't make the mark, or, you know, for your next person you are going to hang out and date? Like, what do you want to see in that person? I mean, obviously you want to be their best friend, but like specificity in terms of what you expect of someone. Like, what's a minimum requirement?
Bare minimum requirement, which seems to be so difficult for people, is just quality one-on-one time.
Okay. So that's your love language.
That doesn't sound like a lot, right? But
well, it depends on who it is, right? Because like that's a love language. And so if you're vibing with someone who like, they're like, oh, like I like you, but like, I can only.
I know. I
need my me time.
That.
Yeah.
Well, me time is super important to me too. But I guess because I've been out here for a while now, and specifically a lot of the guys that I have talked to are people that are also kind of doing what I'm doing. Like, you've seen out here, like people roll with squads, like posses, right? Of like people.
You were recently dating Tyler.
Taylor.
Yeah. Sorry. God, fuck, TikTok's coming after me.
Tyler.
Potato. And he's got a squad.
Yeah, he's got his squad, and like, you know, even when I was talking to, you know, it's not a bad thing. Like, I'm not trying to call these people out. I have so many, even like my girlfriends, like Tana has her squad, like everyone has their squad. But not being able to separate from that squad and like having to be with them all the time is a little weird to me. Like when people like are living with those people and spending more time with those people than they are with their significant others, that's when it becomes like a little bit of a problem.
Are you a big time introvert? You sound like maybe you might be introverted.
I am, but I'm not. I'm like both. I'm an introvert, extrovert.
Ambivert? Ambivert?
Amber Alert.
Not Amber Alert. There are no missing.
I don't know. Ambivert.
Is it right? Ambivert.
I really like going and doing things, but I'm not a big socializer. Like I don't like.
But you need to recharge. You like recharging alone.
Yes. Not even. I mean, it doesn't have to be alone. But yes, I definitely like my me time. But for me, just quality time. Like a lot of what I've experienced out here and dating just across the board. I literally was just talking about this. It's a lot of like, I can't even remember the last time someone asked me on a date. Like literally can't remember it. And it's because like guys will be like, hey, we're going to do this, or I'm going to do this, like want to tag along. So there's no thought or planning or anything of like, we should go do something that we both enjoy.
Do you think that is because you're hanging out with guys who are like prioritizing the group or the bros? Or, I mean, like obviously.
Well, they're prioritizing their career over anything.
You think that's what it is? You don't think there's not an intimidation aspect?
Maybe.
I mean, you're an attractive person. You're successful. You're young. Do you think guys? So it's not about being asked out.
That's what Harry said. He was like, it's a lot less hard to get shot down when you just like, because it's like if someone had asked me on a date and I was like, no, the guy would be like embarrassed because of that, or it'd be harder. So it's like easier to just invite people to hang out.
And if you don't go, you're just like, oh, I just invited someone who has plans.
Yeah. But like that's like just hiding behind shit. Like obviously like we can kick it for the first 2 months, but I'm talking about like even when I've been dating people or when we've gotten to that point where it's more serious, like taking that leap to either go on dates, or it doesn't even have to be a fucking date. It's like, what's something we both enjoy doing? Like, because everyone out here, like I was saying, is hustling and chasing their own thing. So everyone wants everyone to be a part of their things. It's like, come to this thing I already have planned and I'm already doing. You may have no interest in it whatsoever, but come be a part of it.
So do you sometimes feel like they're not, you can't even tell if there's like, if this is a date, are you interested in me, or you just want me there because I'm of a social status?
Yes, that. Am I like, am I
it's
part
like,
of
hey, Charlie
this?
Jordan's coming.
I'm like, am I a part of this posse? Are we hanging out? Are you here for work? Is this like something we're supposed to be having fun doing? Like, I don't know. It all bleeds together. I think separating work and personal is really important to me to a certain extent, because like my shit consumes my life, but I try at least to like have that corner, right, where it's like, okay, I sacrifice everything about myself to do this job. The last thing I want to sacrifice is my personal relationships. Like I would never want to exploit those or have it be a part of the work side of shit. So
each and every, hey, you know what I do every day? I put deodorant on. It's natural deodorant by Each and Every. It has been a game changer in my life because up until me finding Each and Every, I was stuck using toxic, terrible antiperspirants because I am allergic to deodorant. So many of people are out there like me. Even if you're not allergic to deodorant, it's still terrible for you. And now you have the benefit of putting natural deodorant that it's clean and smells good and makes you smell good all day long without having to worry about putting toxic fragrances in your body, because your skin is your largest organ. It's going to end up in your bloodstream and you're doing it every day. You want to make sure that those ingredients are clean and safe, and Each and Every is doing that for you. It's made with 6 simple, safe, and ethically sourced ingredients, no parabens, baking soda, or other hidden nasties. It's even been found to fight odor as well as an antiperspirant without aluminum. And I can vouch for that. I'm a sweater and I put it on, once a day, and smell delicious. I've been told I smell delicious. Order Each and Every for yourself and for all the other natural product lovers in your life. Check out their amazing bestseller set and collection of minis, perfect for gifts. My listeners will get 30% off your first purchase. Go now to my special URL, eachandevery.com/VIALL, and use promo code VIALL30. Don't miss out on 30% off. Use promo code VIALL30 at eachandevery.com/VIALL. Has this ever happened to you? You need to see a doctor, you search and find one that looks good, you wait on hold to book an appointment, you rearrange your schedule, and when you finally go in to find out the doctor doesn't even take your insurance. Ugh! What a bummer. Nightmare. Did this happen to you, Amanda, or are you used our good friends at Zocdoc to book your doctor appointment?
Yeah, I did, because my dad has I'm still on my dad's insurance. It has a very specific, subset of a larger company. Zocdoc is amazing because I can put in the specific thing that I'm on, and then I can get actual appointment times. Like, nobody wants to call anymore. I want to select an appointment time and I want to click and then have it set up with a doctor.
When you say you have specific insurance, it's like going on a date with someone who says, I have specific taste in food. And you're like, and you want to be like, well, you just mean you're annoying.
Exactly. It's like exclusive or difficult. Yeah. Who's to say?
Yeah.
But Zocdoc made it really easy, and I have a lot of appreciation for that.
That's right. Whether you need a primary care physician, dentist, dermatologist, physician, eye doctor, or other specialist, Zocdoc has you covered. Go to Zocdoc.com/VIALL and download the Zocdoc app to sign up for free. Every month, millions of people use Zocdoc. Zocdoc makes healthcare easy. Now is the time to prioritize your health. Go to Zocdoc.com/VIALL and download the Zocdoc app to sign up for free and book a top-rated doctor. Many are available as soon as today. That's ZocDoc.com/VIALL. Do you have guys sliding in your DMs?
What if I was like, nah? Yes.
Well, or do you more? I guess less obvious because I'm obvious. Do you check them, or is that something you're open to looking at? Like, how would a guy,
for me,
connect with you?
It's like the in-person side of it. I don't really look at my DMs or use dating apps. I've been trying to pay a lot of attention lately to people that I actually see on my daily basis, because I was meeting a lot of people because of social media. And I would try to have these relationships with people that weren't even necessarily a part of my life. And I'm like, oh, we have so much in common. Like, we both like this and we both enjoy this. But at the end of the day, if you're not seeing someone consistently in your actual day-to-day, what's the point?
You mean starting to date a friend, in the sense that
kind
are you
of
saying you want to have some sort of familiarity?
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to so what if you were
say you met someone, right, and you're like, oh, we have all these things in common and this, but they they live across the United States, and
sure,
you're not able, and they're not willing to move, you're not willing to move. Do you really have a relationship with that person? This is a controversial thing. I don't necessarily I can't do long distance relationships because that physical, like being able to see that
Quality
person
time
and
is
be
your
with
love
that
language,
person
yeah.
is very important. FaceTime only does so much. So even in LA, right? Like I know it's like the same place, but if you're not making time to see each other, then like what's the point? Like you're just having FaceTime conversations every so often.
How much does like as a powerful, I would call you powerful, as a powerful, if influential, successful young woman, how much does power and influence in your partner matter to you? Are you attracted to that?
I'm definitely attracted to people who are passionate about what they do. Mm-hmm. I don't really care how successful you are at what you're doing or anything like that, because I know what it's like to like have to hustle and grind and get to that point.
You go to Joe and the Juice on Melrose or whatever your coffee spot is.
Yes.
And some guy you find attractive, he comes up to you and says, Charly, you don't know who I am, but I'd love to grab a dessert with you tomorrow. Ask you out on a specific date.
Yes.
And what do you look him up and down, you're surprised and you think he's a cute, attractive guy. And do you say yes right away? Do you say, let's grab a coffee first and get to know him? Like, do you live in LA? Like, how do you qualify that? And does someone stand a chance to do that?
Yes,
they do.
Absolutely. Because I don't care what your status is. Like that's, if I think that you're nice and cute and I'm like, I could see this going somewhere. Like I'm super down for stuff like that.
Has that ever
I literally
happened
had
to
that
you?
happen to me like a week ago. I was at a Louis Vuitton event and one of the valet guys, super cute, asked for my number.
Valet guys got some swag.
No, he was like, I mean, if you do valet, you make good money. So.
Yeah. Also, yeah, you meet a lot of people. I think you know how to talk.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he was really cute. Asked my number.
Did you say yes?
I did. He asked me on a date, and I haven't followed up on it just because I've been busy. But there's that.
Are you going to go?
I don't know, man. I looked through.
Well,
no, like I get concerned. The thing that I get concerned with, like I went on his Instagram, and he's like trying to be a male model. So something that does weird me out a little bit is when people don't. Like, I don't care what it is you have going on, just like be true to it and want to do what you're doing. Like what really frustrates me is when people try to befriend people or spend time with people for that reason of like, I will also want to do what you're doing. So like I've hired on videographers before that all of a sudden try to turn into my manager. And I'm like, I thought you wanted to be a videographer, bitch. I'm like, why are you trying to manage me right now? Or like people will get into a lane to try to get into a different lane, which I understand like everyone has to do that to a certain extent, as long as you're honest about it. You're like, oh, I'm working valet because I'm trying to make connections.
They try to kind of side hustle you.
Yes.
It's like, I know I can get you in with certain so-and-so. And you're just like, I got a guy for that.
Yeah, I went to his Instagram and he was trying to be a little male influencer. So I was kind of like, maybe he did know who I was ahead of time. Like, I usually won't ever give people the time of day if they've already, like, if they approach me and they're like, I followed you on Instagram, and then they try to like get my number, I'm like, there's some weird intentions there. But if they genuinely don't know who I am and they're just coming up to me and they're like, you're really pretty, like I saw you from across the way, I'm like,
you're in a tough spot there because a lot of people know who you are. I mean, that's the burden of your success. Not everyone, but
no, it's if people could separate, again, like people lose their cool when they're talking to people that they think are successful.
I mean, I get it. When my girlfriend slid into my DMs, I assumed she knew who I was. When we first met up, she made it seem like she didn't, and I didn't believe her, you know?
Really?
Yeah, because I was like, come on. But she really, I vetted it out because I'm a skeptic.
No, same. That's why, I usually try to give people the benefit of the doubt until they say something that I'm like, you would not know that about me. They give
themselves away.
Yes.
Yeah, they totally give themselves away.
They'll be asking me a question about something that like, I'm like, you would have no idea that I did that unless you were watching my stories. It's actually very weird. I feel like a lot of the conversations that I have, because I'm really big into psychology, like I took it all through high school, and I feel like I would be doing that if I wasn't doing this. But the way people speak to you and the things that I get asked, I know it's based on my Instagram. Like, I don't even get to talk about 90% of the time what I want to talk about with people.
What do you want to talk about, Charly?
I mean, I feel like it's not like you, like, I mean, you have some papers here about me. No. Like, you don't really know too much about me. So this is like this is a candid conversation. Yeah. But when people are like, how was this trip and how was this? Like, I appreciate those questions. But I wish that I could like bring those things up on my own, like if I wanted to talk about them. Like I don't get, like people ask me about everything that they see on my social media instead of questions about me or how I'm feeling or
So what do you
like
think is what do you think is one of the biggest misconceptions about you from a public standpoint and who you are alone in your thoughts?
You know, it's your stereotypical, like everyone looks at me on the internet, they're like, this privileged white blonde girl. People think that I came from money or, it's just your stereotypical expectations. And then everyone meets me and they're like, oh, she has a brain. She can do things. Like, and I hate that that's just the automatic, like anytime a guy sees a girl in a bikini and they just automatically over-sexualize, assume that they don't have anything going on behind that. I'm like, no, you can be attractive and successful. Like it's a very like possible thing. When I DJ, every single time I get off, the number one thing I hear is, oh, you can actually DJ. I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't have a residency in Las Vegas performing with Tiesto and DJ Snake and Zed if I couldn't actually DJ. Like it's almost insulting to hear people say that.
Yeah, that's a good point. You'd think
being a female just in general, like in a space that's dominated by males, the music space, the social media space. I feel like social media used to be a little bit more female dominated. Like you didn't see that many male influencers. Like it wasn't really a thing. But now it's equaled out a little bit.
You think so?
I think so. Yeah, I actually think that
it's definitely equal. I mean, you've gotten more men have followed, but
a lot now. Like the main people that are paid attention to in the media on social media, in my opinion, are males now, and it used to not be like that.
And you think that's TikTok with your ex and some of the what are they? The SWAT,
Logan and Jake and Taylor and Bryce. Being an influencer used to be about spreading, and nothing against them, because I think anything that can be monetized and that you can make money off of does get exploited, like social media. Like it used to not be able to make money from it. So there's people that did it because they loved it, and there's people who were trying to make money. In my opinion, like social media, the people that started on it and cared about it used it to spread a message that was positive. It was like health and wellness, bettering yourself, traveling, exposing yourself to different cultures. That's the social media that I got on. That's the Instagram I got on. Now, it's turned into social media. When I got on, there was no comments, there was no stories, there were no DMs. It was literally just a photo video sharing platform. And now all these guys have come in, and obviously it's a money-making machine. People come in and it's like, oh, if I fight this person, people are going to really pay attention to it. Like it's so crazy to me. Yes, it's very performance, very calculated, very set up, very unorganic, which is not something I necessarily believe in, but I also see the value in it because it's like, this is a job like anything else. So I, am friends with all those people, support what they do, but that's just personally never how I would go about it.
Do you think they should just ban comments on all social media platforms?
I think that's a good idea.
Imagine what that would be like. I'm just thinking about it.
Well, on TikTok,
they award comments. Obviously,
that is like the main
that's the
thing.
currency,
I feel like,
right? Yeah.
People, I don't know if you've know this, but obviously when you're in the comments section, the video is playing over and over again in the back. So the more time you spend on the comments, the more views that video gets. Isn't that interesting? So comment section on TikTok, if you have a very interesting comment section, your video will get more views. So there's actually incentive to cause drama, to stir up the pot.
You want people that disagree with you.
Mm-hmm. I'm like, this is so easy.
If everyone agrees with you.
Well, I'm like, how do people not see through this like smoke screen? Like it's very easy to tell when people are trying to start beef, and people totally feed into it.
Yeah, I think people see it. I
just don't think they care because it's
I don't think they care, and I think there's certain people like the Paul brothers, like who
they're so smart though.
Yeah, well, what they are is they don't care, and they are willing to take their beatings, so to speak, right? Like
they
understand the value of being hated.
Yes,
they know that.
Mm-hmm.
Like
all those guys do. I have yet to like Tana's probably the
all those
only
guys.
Your top quote unquote
I think
males
Bryce Hall. I feel like
media.
Bryce Hall is like going down that path. Like he always shows up on my For You page once in a while, like saying and trying to start some shit.
Oh, he's actually been very unproblematic recently, but yeah, that was his whole thing. That was kind of my ex's whole thing. Like, I will never understand that. Like the getting into fights in public type beat to like stir things up. A lot of times though, I will be fully transparent. A lot of those people it wasn't the boys that were causing those problems. It was other people. The amount of times I've seen, I don't know what it is with TikTok, guys on TikTok, they're really nice. They're really funny. Like all those guys are my friends. Like I love them to death. And we would go out to eat and like, pardon my language, I would never say this, but
you can swear.
Literally watched, like a group of guys, like you TikTok, like saying like the most disrespectful shit.
To those guys.
Yes, completely unprovoked. Like people like Logan when he got in that fight outside the bar like a week ago, like someone was calling him a pussy. Like if some random stranger walked up to you and was like, you absolutely would clock them in the face. So then these guys get a bad rap for fighting when all they're doing is defending themselves. Like I don't think it's ever justified to lay your hands on someone, but when it happens to you every single day, every single time you go out into public, I kind of start to understand it.
I mean, those words are never okay to use.
To say to anyone. So I'm like, what do you think is going to happen when you call someone that?
That is true. Minus the use of that language.
Yes.
But like the provoking part, they like the Logan guys,
But that's the
part
thing.
of their
it's all
their
self-inflicted.
secret sauce. Yeah,
yes.
right? I mean, like.
So I'm like, you can't respond to these people, right? I'm like, if you want to, be that type of person on the internet and cause those problems, you're going to get that response in real life. And then they complain about getting into those fights. And I'm like, well, you kind of walked yourself into that, like being someone who's on the problematic side. So it's a bunch of self-inflicted problems, which is why I also have a hard time with LA because people complain about shit that is very easily fixable. Like people are using me for this and da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, if you go to Saddle Ranch, if you go to BOA, you cannot complain about being paparazzi'd. Like, I'm sorry. Like, you are not like, like people will go and they're like, oh, I hate the pop. Like, we'll leave in a bad mood. Like, damn near.
They know.
Those are the two places you go to get paparazzi'd.
Not the only two, but there's two of them. Yeah.
Those are the main, over quarantine. That was a very weird time. Like, those were the two restaurants that were open. So everyone would go and be like, like, they're just all in my face asking me questions. I'm like, you're literally responding to their questions. I'm like, if you don't want to talk to them, just walk past them.
Or go somewhere else.
Yeah, anywhere else. And if it was people that were like traditional celebrities saying that, like I would kind of get it. But it's all these kids that were super new into the scene. Like I hadn't even been paparazzi'd before I went to BOA. I was like, what the fuck? Like, it is weird. It's
BOA.
Very weird.
I've never even been to that BOA.
You've never been to BOA?
I went to the one in Santa Monica.
Mm-hmm. That one's good.
I've never been to the one in West Hollywood.
Ridiculous.
I find there's a better cut of meat in the city.
There is. Those restaurants aren't even that good.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, why is everyone going
Sorry,
to these
BOA.
places?
All right, next time.
No, BOA's good. Saddle Ranch is good, but it's definitely more about the community than it is
Saddle
about
Ranch?
the restaurant. Yeah.
I never would have guessed.
Go to Saddle Ranch. See what happens.
Don't they have like a mechanical bull or
yes.
something?
It's actually really fun. You were on The Bachelor, right?
Yeah.
How was that?
It was, had its ups and downs.
Which season were you on?
All of them.
What do you mean all of them?
I was on 4 different seasons.
Oh shit! Of just The Bachelor or The Bachelorette?
Twice on The Bachelorette.
Did you do?
Then I was The Bachelor. Then I was
Bachelor in Paradise. Yeah. Oh, he's a professional.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's you guys, or The Bachelor, I feel like was kind of like paved the way for all of these other dating shows that have popped up now.
Yeah. Yeah, in some ways, I'm sure.
Have you checked out any of the new ones like Love Island or Too Hot to Handle?
Not so much. I don't really watch a lot of reality TV other than I watch The Bachelor now because we recap it on our show. But
so why were you if you don't watch reality TV or aren't interested in it, why were you so adamant about continuing to be a part of that series?
Well, it was less being adamant that I just kind of happened.
Or they were like, hey, we want you to be like...
Not even that. One of the first time was like anyone else who goes on, who you have friends.
I've heard they have a crazy intense questionnaire.
They have like a psych test.
Yeah?
But I would assume most of those shows do.
Probably.
And the second time I liked the girl. And so I went back on and chased a girl.
Oh.
The Paradise is just like, that was more like the show wanted me on. And I
heard
said,
the mosquitoes were really bad.
They are. And then they asked me to be the Bachelor. And I said, yeah. So it was just kind of it all worked out.
What was it like being the main person instead of...
It's a nightmare.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's hard.
I'm sure.
But it would be the equivalent of, you getting done with a DJ set, doing a meet and greet with like 30 eligible, decent, good-looking guys, or you going to a bar and vibing with maybe 2 of them, but having to make the other 28 feel special.
Yeah.
And seen and heard and validated.
That's a lot.
And
especially all girls.
And when they don't know what to say, they just make out with you. And you can't turn them down because then you're the dick.
Hey, there are worse problems to have than making out with several women.
I wasn't complaining. I was just answering a question.
No, I know. That's hard. Especially if you're like also trying to really like make a connection with someone.
What emotion do you feel the most that you find to be the most beneficial, and what emotion gets you in the most trouble when you're in your feelings?
That's a good question. The emotion that benefits me the most is my gut instinct, my initial split judgment of things. If I should be there, if I shouldn't be there. I've tried to ignore it a couple times and it's never turned out good.
Is that usually with like
I think that's called anxiety. Everyone talks about anxiety as like this negative thing, but I think anxiety is like your fight or flight of kind of your body being like, this is a good situation, this is a bad situation.
Yeah, it definitely can be for sure. Yeah.
Well, people ignore their anxiety all the time. They're like, whatever. But anytime I've listened to it, it's been extremely beneficial. So I try to listen to my gut instinct and how I feel. Ultimately, just for myself, like even if it's not like, the correct career move, whatever, like if I'm not mentally okay or comfortable in a situation, it doesn't really matter. Because I think being healthy creates that longevity to continue to do this job. So if you're constantly sacrificing the way that you feel just to be somewhere because it's beneficial to you, you'll be done. Like you'll be done in a year because you're going to create this environment where you just don't feel good ever. And it's very hard to continue on with this job when you don't feel good and are not enjoying it. So I try to listen to myself in those situations, but that same feeling of like anxiety around pleasing other people, that's what's gotten me into the most negative situations, is when I feel like I have to quickly, like someone will express disinterest or displeasure in something that I'm doing. And obviously like I care a lot about what I do. So I always want to make sure everyone's happy. And sometimes I go too far to like do that. Someone will be like, you did this wrong or this and this. And Are you
talking more like a relationship situation? Or are you talking about
just with
fans?
everything? Like I have a hard time saying no to things.
Really?
Just because I didn't come from that much. So when I do get offered really cool experiences or someone's like, here's this deal, I have this for you. My feeling of trying to make sure that everybody's okay all the time. Like I'm the one person that if like one person in the room isn't having a good time, I'm focused on that one person, not the 50 other people that are having a great time. I think is a good thing ultimately, because I'm like,
sure.
I'm like, oh, if one of us is not good, then none of us are good. I'm a big like team player, but sometimes I'm like, I just need to focus on myself and like keep doing my thing,
Anything else, you just have to, our weaknesses can become strengths and vice versa if we can't control it.
Yes.
Like if we're always saying yes to things, it's nice to like focus on other people, but we can lose ourselves. And then are we doing it for ourselves or for other people? Or are we doing it because we want to feel like, it's a whole.
Exactly. So I've struggled with that feeling because at first I was like, I'm trying to help other people. But then I was like, wait, maybe it's like a little bit deeper than that. So I just try to focus more on myself.
What's a quality that you've learned about yourself, especially like in relationships that like your exes have gotten annoyed with? Like we all annoy our partners, and sometimes we learn like fuck, I do that. And like, if I'm pretty certain if you line up all my exes and got them in a room, like they'd all be like, didn't you fucking hate it when Nick did this? And they're like, yes. And like it would be like, I know. Isn't
that the worst when you've like dated enough people to where they all start to have commonalities and you're like, wait, this is me, fuck.
Yeah. So what is it about, what about you?
Yeah. I give people the forewarning. It's not like they don't know this about me. I have clinically been diagnosed with anxiety. I just need reassurance with stuff. So the number one thing for me is I really like to communicate. Big communicator. I think it's important to talk and understand things clearly. Like I'm very blunt and very straightforward. So for me, I think the commonality between all of them has just been, I don't even know how to describe this. Like I have too long of conversations. So like when there's been a problem, right? Or like something that we need to talk about, I don't like being, so both my parents are attorneys, and growing up, they literally like anytime we would have a conversation or argument, they're like the first person to show like emotion kind of like loses control of the situation.
Okay,
so
interesting.
I'm very level-headed, and I like to approach the situation as if it was anything else. Like, I'm not going to come in hot accusing you of doing something, which is what people do a lot. Like, when they have a problem, they'll just be like, you did this, and da 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 da. And I'm like, and then I don't react very well to that. So, like, I'm like, hey, can we find time to talk? I'll sit down with someone and, like, I'll dedicate that time to have an extended conversation about that one thing so we can nip it in the bud, make sure it doesn't happen again. But a lot of people aren't like that. Like,
interestingly enough, my exes find that same quality about me annoying.
Yeah, like when I talk to them, if they're
my
not
calmness,
able to,
they find obnoxious. It's like, why are you so fucking calm? Like, it comes across as condescending. I think sometimes.
Yes, and I'm like, I'm not mad at you. I'm like, I don't think that you did this intentionally to hurt my feelings. So like, when there is so much emotion involved, it gets very overwhelming for me. So their common problem is like, you talk for too long. Too many conversations. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm trying to communicate. I don't think it's that bad of a thing, but I definitely have tried to work on keeping my communication more like short and concise, because sometimes I will like if I say something and someone doesn't understand what I'm saying, I go into great detail to explain my side, which isn't always necessary. So
yeah, well, because like, and I'm sure there are differences, but when you're talking, it resonates with me. And when I got that feedback, I felt defensive. Like, well, how can being too communicative be bad, right? But then some of the notes I got, and I'm curious if this would resonate with you, is that it's not that I'm talking too much. I will repeat myself.
Oh my God.
Over and over and over. And they're like, yeah, no, I fucking heard you the first 4 times, but you know, obviously they're not responding in a way.
Exactly.
So I repeat it, and yeah.
I've actually never had or met anyone who's had that same problem besides you. People be like, you've repeated yourself. And I'm like, it's because when I'm saying what I'm saying, you're not responding to what I'm saying. You're just defending yourself. So unless I feel like what I said
like you
really resonates with you, or you understood, like even something as simple as being like, okay, if that person could just say to me, like, I understand what you said, I heard you, and then go into saying what they want to say, but there's no acknowledgement or recognition of what other people say, and that's where the argument starts. If I just say something that I want to say, and then you say something you want to say, and it keeps going like that, how are you supposed to get anything accomplished?
No, I totally feel you.
So yes, sometimes I've gone above and beyond to explain my side. I've tried to, especially when it became like a commonality between people, I was like, okay, I'm going to cut back on doing that. If you don't hear what I say, there's nothing I can do about that. I was like, I can't force you to hear it. But of course, everybody wants that. Everyone wants to be heard. So I am like, they'll say something to me and I'm like, okay, I hear you. I understand. I respond to what they say. And then I say my piece and they don't have that respect back. Like, I just don't even know what to do at this point. I'm like,
Yeah, I mean, it's just finding the right people. We capped The Bachelorette this morning, and the episode, which will be last week, the current Bachelorette was frustrated a couple of the guys, and one of what seemed to be her favorite guy repeated what she said, but it like wasn't listening. He was like, I hear you, I see you, whatever. And we're like, do you? Are you? And
you can tell.
And another man like are connected with her by relating it, and repeating it back, and you could tell she felt seen and heard by one person over the other, and they both, they were kind of saying the same things, very different energies, very different attempts. So like, it's just finding the right person.
I think that is something though that I was in the wrong for. Like sometimes I would take 15 minutes to like say all these things, and then obviously someone isn't going to remember all those things that you said in that amount of time. So now I try to like deliver the information in pieces instead of just being like, here's all this shit, respond to it, which obviously is not helpful. So
Darlene, my therapist, tells me I have to do it in 10 minutes or stop.
That's so funny. I like try to do that with in studio sessions. It's like, hey, we have to make a song in like 30 minutes or less. Because sometimes when you do ponder on things for too long, can be damaging. But yeah, communication, I think, is the make or break factor in any relationship.
As someone who suffers from anxiety, who thinks a lot, what are you currently worried about?
In regards to anything or just in
Anything.
general?
I mean, like I get it from my mom, a professional worrier. I'm like good at it. I'm like, there's something to worry about. Like, I get anxious when I don't have something to solve.
Yeah, I'm definitely a fixer. That's been my problem with just everything. I have.
Oh, do you try to do that with guys?
Yeah. My anxiety sort of leads me to believe that I am like a fixer, right? Like I sort of test people, and with my therapist as well, she's like, you have a little bit of like a hero complex where it's like, I'm trying to save people or help whatever. And I think it's being the oldest of 7 kids, having.
Oh, you have 6 siblings.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Mormon.
Yes.
7 siblings. How much, and it's I want to circle back to when you mentioned you come from a very conservative household, Mormon. I come from the Catholic. I have 10 siblings. We have a
10?
big, yeah. And we have a big part of our audience are people like us, right? I think a lot of people in America grew up in very conservative households, and there's a lot of shame and judgment around religion. And there's a lot of us who have broken away from that, who have found our own individuality. What's your balance in terms of, do you take anything you've learned as a child from the LDS church? Or is it a total disconnect? Like, how do you balance that out? And do you still sometimes struggle with that?
Because it was coming from such an intense thing to another intense thing, I now, years later, have learned how to balance it out. But I definitely took a lot of positive things from growing up that way, the morals and the values that are part of any religion. I believe that religion in general is people coming together to try to be better, which I will always support. It wasn't the religions that I had a problem with. It was the culture that develops around it. Yeah. So with the Mormon religion, I think it made me who I am, instilled incredible values, but also simultaneously, because of the culture and the people, caused a lot of problems. So I try to pull the positive from it, but I also do feel like I'm living a completely different life currently than I was growing up, which I'm much more happier with now. I think you should always give people the freedom of expression, let your kids choose what they want to believe, pick what they want to believe to a certain extent when it comes to religion. Like, obviously, if your kid's fucking around, be like, get your shit together. But when you're like forcing someone to go to church, forcing someone to do church classes, like, it just made me rebel. So I swung hard the opposite direction, and actually there were a lot of things that hurt me from that religion, socially, physically, just like across the board. So I try to look at the positive, but I think the Mormon religion is one of those sub-religions that's a little bit more cultish than the rest. When you want to get into religions, like, people confuse polygamy with the Mormon religion all the time, thinking that like Mormons have multiple wives and a million kids, and people were like, oh, you're Amish? I'm like, no, I was Mormon. It's definitely a little bit more intense. My parents were pretty lax compared to the rest. But yeah, I definitely pull things from my childhood, very positive. My parents were super outdoorsy, like I was saying, traveled all the time. So a lot of who I am, in my opinion, is like the more expressive, outgoing version of what I was raised with. I think I'm doing what a lot of people wish they could do. And that's why people were so jealous and hateful towards me, especially in that religion. Like a lot of people I grew up with, I'm not even in touch with anymore. Because it's like, oh, you posting bikini pictures on the internet. Oh no, not a body, not a human body. I'm in a tropical place in Hawaii. Should I be wearing a sweater? Like, I'm not sure what you expect from me.
Does that still bother you? Like the human side? Like, because it's easy to be like what you just said. Like, what's your fucking problem? But sometimes, it's still, as the human side will hurt us. Even if we know we're right.
It's not about right or wrong. It's just let people do what they want. Like, if I don't want to cover my shoulders, awesome. I'm not sitting over here bashing your religion. I'm like, cover your shoulders if you want. Be Mormon. I'm like, I support that. But I'm never going to go out of my way to be like, you're wrong for being Mormon. You're wrong for being Jewish. Like, let people do what they want, whatever feels comfortable to them, because you have one life. Like,
do you think your time in the church and as a youthful in your youth has made you more empathetic?
Absolutely, for sure. I think there's a lot of things that religion taught me. I actually wouldn't be opposed to going back to it at some point when I'm older and have like a family. But as a young adult, it's a very difficult religion to be a part of because I feel like your young adult life is meant to be explored, meeting people, seeing what you like and dislike. And a lot of that religion, they tell you what you should do and like and dislike. So you never really have to figure out for yourself. Like some people could be totally happy getting married when they're 19, never being with anyone else, and they love that life. But what if that person could have been 10 times happier with somebody else, living somewhere else? But they would never know because no one's ever pushed them to do that. And that's just like something you have to choose for yourself. And I wasn't going to ignore the things that I felt. Many of my peers didn't feel that way at all. And I support them in their journey and what they choose to do. But that's just not who I was.
As a successful DJ who has a residency in Vegas, some would say you've already made it. What is your point of view on your career so far, and what is the height of making it for you?
I feel like I'm just the beginning. Even though I've been doing it for a long time, obviously there's like different fields, right? So like just because I have a social media following does not mean I consider myself a successful artist. Those are two completely different things. A lot of times when people have a following, I feel like they gain that arrogance of like, I deserve this and this and this because I have a following. But just like anything else, you have to practice and work for what you want. So like the amount of artists I've had hit me up to like do songs together, I'm like, have you even listened to any of my music? Like, do you know? I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. So for me with the music stuff, with social media, I feel like I've gotten to where I want to be. And I can obviously keep going, but always like social media will always be a part of anything I choose to do. Just for me, like I post every day and it's like literally like a little journal for me. Like if I wasn't doing Instagram, I'd be like that psycho mom with like a scrapbook, putting like baby hairs in it and like all that other shit. Cause I'm a very nostalgic, like memorable, like I love memories. So for me, that's why I use Instagram, and that will go along with anything that I do. But yeah, music, having a residency in Vegas is a huge deal, and I'm super, super thankful for that. But ultimately, I would like to be on a touring circuit, so playing festivals all over the world is my goal, and also being a more legitimate artist. So I've been working on music. I have a studio at my house. Songwriting and singing is something that I would really like to get into. So I'm just trying to find my sound, what I want to do right now, and kind of like what my value is in the studio and where I can offer that creative and artistic input. But with my businesses as well, I feel like have made it with those, but I have 2 businesses. One is organic rose petal joints. So it's like rolling papers. No one's ever made them. They don't exist anywhere else. And I just learned about them because I was traveling all over.
Are they exactly how they sound?
Yes. So it's completely intact rose petals laid around in the shape of a cone. There's no weed in it. It's just the paper. So I just sell the rolling papers.
That's what I do with my weed. My neighbor grows it. Am I allowed to say that?
Yes.
Best.
Wait, like you put it in rose petals?
No. But I don't know how to roll. I'm like stupid. And so I buy the it's like.
Well, sir, I'm going to have to send you some pre-made cones. Yeah, you don't have to roll it or anything. It's
you just twist it. But like.
Yeah, it's just a cone.
But yours are rose petals.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
mine's is paper.
There's no dyes, pesticides. Like it's completely organic. In my opinion, it's the healthiest thing you can smoke on the market. Which is why the company has done so well, because I was trying to feed into that like niche of healthy smoking, like consuming cannabis, not because it's a dirty bong rip in your college dorm room apartment, but because it helps with anxiety and it can be clean, it can be medicinally used, it can be something that adds quality to life and doesn't take away. It was always viewed as like this lazy thing, but it's helped me so much. So I wanted to add to that side of the community. And then, so that's been an amazing thing to side passion project. And then my other brand, Beauty and Pain, I spend a lot of time on both of these things, which takes up a lot of my time outside of DJing. Beauty and Pain is earrings and necklaces and jewelry that's all centered around mental health. I used to struggle with self-harm a lot when I was in high school, and that's why I got this tattoo on my wrist right here. It's like a dagger and a rose, Beauty and Pain. I have it tattooed right here. That's the name of the brand. I believe that you can grow from the negative experiences that have happened to you. It doesn't always have to be like a scar, that you can talk about negative things in a productive way. It doesn't have to always be sad or angry or hurtful. I think being able to actually talk about and articulate your emotions in that way is a much more elevated way of thinking instead of just shoving it into a box inside of you and never talking about it. So yeah, provoking, like having those two companies, especially Beauty and Pain, that like provokes those types of conversations, like real conversations, not just where are you from? How was your day? What did you do today? Like your day-to-day conversation, which I don't mind at all. But it's been really cool to like see people that wear the necklace or are a part of that community walk up to each other and like have those real conversations. Walk up to me and have those conversations, talk to me about things that they've been through. Like, oh, have been an alcoholic for the past 3 years and I wear this necklace every day that I'm sober to remind me to stay strong. And I'm like, wow, that's incredible. That's why I wear the necklace, to remind myself to stay strong and be better for the negative things that have happened to me. So the music stuff. And
where can people find?
Beautyandpain.com is where the jewelry is, and then smokeroses.com. Same thing on Instagram. Beauty
send me
and Pain,
some petals.
Smoke Roses.
So you can send Natalie some jewelry and send me some petals.
Yes, send me your addresses, please.
It's the same address.
And same address?
Same
I
address.
was like, do you guys live together?
Domesticated.
How long have you been dating?
I mean, technically, we have 2 years, I guess. We don't have like an anniversary.
That's perfect though. Like,
yeah, it's wonderful. Musically, for me, DJ, singing, whatever. I'm a competitive person, and I think a lot of positive things can come from competition. Who is someone in the industry that you compete with from a motivation standpoint, and then who is someone in the industry you aspire and look up to? Aspire to be and look up to?
It's a great question. Lots of good questions. Compete with? There's not that many female DJs, honestly. So, competing with, I honestly...
like they do something, you're just like, fuck, that was good. Fuck.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that I look up to.
Inspires you, yeah.
Yes, there's so many people that I look up to, but currently, people that I'm competing with, like even at Resort World, like where I'm playing, like there's not any other girls that are doing what I'm doing. So similar to like, my life has just been like this. I don't know why. Like when I ran track, I was ranked number 6 in the United States my freshman year of high school. So I was always racing against myself. Like same thing with my businesses and social media. It's a very individual thing. Like I'm like pushed by myself. Like I am my biggest competitor. So like people in the DJ space that I look up to, Alice in Wonderland, the Nervo Twins, Rez, like there's so many incredible, huge female DJs that I don't even feel like I'm necessarily close to. But yeah, people that I don't ever feel like I'm like competitive with anyone. Like I'm just doing my own thing, and there's people that I aspire to be like and people that inspire me, but I wouldn't say I feel like I'm competing with anyone.
Okay. Do you have any takes on this Astroworld controversy? It's something Nally and I have talked a lot about, a lot of opinions. It's a terrible tragedy. I don't know what it's like to perform on stage with a crowd. You do. And I think there's a lot of discussions around the responsibility of the performers, like paying attention to the care and well-being of their audience and things like that. And then, I'm wondering, like, would someone even notice, like how there's so much going on? Like, is someone who has been on stage and has performed around a crowd, like, do you have any takes on this tragedy?
I think that it's literally the worst way to die. And I can only imagine what the family of those people are going through and what those people went through before they passed. Like, that's just, I don't think that should ever happen. I don't think there should ever be deaths at a fucking concert that we're going to enjoy and have fun. And it's like people that are supposed to be coming together for music. Like, when did, violence and drugs and all these other things, like it's always been promoted through music, but that's like whole other level. I don't think that it's the artist's fault. He was performing, he was doing his own thing. It's the people that were around him, the production, the security. That's their job. That's not Travis Scott's job to prevent a mosh pit. He's up there singing. So, and when you have lights in your face and you're doing a million things, you can't see what's going on in the audience. Like you don't know the intricacies of what happened, but from the videos and everything that's been shown, it was very clear that people were yelling like, there's people dead. This is going on. And you can see the security team being like, no, like there's so many people communicating. That just shouldn't have happened in the first place. And then that whole thing came out. I'm not sure if it's true or not that those people were drugged.
Yeah, there's just like mixed information. And there's like this thing, I guess is apparently going on in like Europe of like people going to nightclubs and like giving people random injections.
Well, they were saying at the Astroworld concert that those 8 people that died, it's because they were injected by a drug from a random person and they weren't able to hold themselves up and be like a stable person in the mosh pit because
there's
they
been
were
mixed
drugged.
reports. I haven't heard anything.
So
I heard that initially, and then it feels like that rumor, and maybe by the time this episode comes out, there'll be some clarity around that. But
would love some clarity, but regardless of that whole situation, fucking awareness, man. Like if you're in a mosh pit and you're at a concert, it's also the people around those people's fault. Like whoever was right there, like don't be ignorant. Like don't get drunk and drop a tab of acid and then go in a mosh pit and accidentally kill someone. Like it's super easy to not do that. Like I don't know, people just get ignorant and will just do whatever the fuck they want regardless of other people's well-being. So that's a lot of people's fault, unfortunately.
We'll end on some lighter stuff. Any you have a celebrity crush, like in terms of like not necessarily
Superman,
younger?
What's his name? Henry Cavill.
Oh, he's your guy? What about him other than his face? Like who do you have like is that a face celebrity crush? And do you have like a type of quality of a man that like portrays himself as a type of partner you would want?
No, I'm very weird. I don't like people unless I have gotten that's everyone. I don't like people unless I've gotten to know them or spent time with them. So there's no one that I'd be like, oh, as a person, you're amazing, just based off what I've seen through social media, because people can lie. So there's no one like that. But Henry Cavill, like his Instagram it's popping. He's got like working out over here, working on movies over here. He has dogs. He is into literature. Like he just seems like a cool person in general. But from watching Superman, I was like, And then the series The Witcher. Have you seen that?
Should I watch it?
Yes.
I haven't gotten into it.
So good. He's the Witcher in the show, and he's just played so many different roles and is a very diverse person. So he seems really cool. Or any of the Hemsworth brothers, that's definitely more of like a face thing. But
so you like a hot guy.
I don't know, I guess. Yeah. But that's like, obviously that's never going to happen. So those are just the dreams, but personality is big for me.
Cavill dating? Is he married, single? What's his relationship status?
I don't know. Couldn't tell you. I think he's married. If he's not, hey.
I just know he has a nephew because there was a story about his nephew going to school and saying like, "Who's your favorite?" Like saying my uncle's Superman, and his teacher sent him like to detention or something because like your uncle can't be Superman. And then Henry, it was a great story. She like showed up and be like, "No, I'm Superman."
He is Superman.
Yeah.
That's really funny. Yeah, personality wise though, I'm like trying to think. I'm literally running through my head right now. I'm like, what guys like really put their personality out on the internet? I feel like it's really hard to find. Like, there's no guys being like, here's my morning routine, or here's the hobbies that I like. Like,
do you have a most overrated celebrity where you're like, I don't get it. I don't get what people see. I don't.
I'm not gonna say any specific names, but a lot of the TikTok kids. Yeah.
Well, that's because you know them as people.
I do know them as people, and I'm kind of like, like I'm not really sure what happened to get you in this position, but I'm like, I'm happy for you. Like, that's great.
I respect the fact that you don't want to say any names.
Yeah.
No fun, but
I know. I'm sorry. It's just like, it's not hard to guess. Like, it's the same names that everybody says of like, why is this person in this position? Like nowadays, especially because that standard has gotten so young, I'm like, these kids don't even know what they want or what they're doing. Like, a lot of it is their parents and their families that had previous connections to the industry, or they're extraordinarily wealthy and were able to place their kids in these things. Like, again, not going to say any names, but the parents of these children, I see them every time I go out. I'm like, how are you?
It's like a soccer
at every
mom
event,
TikToker.
Yes, it's parents living vicariously through their kids aggressively, and I'm like, shouldn't your kid be at this event, like having a good time, or shouldn't you be watching with your kid? Shouldn't you be spending time with your kid? But instead, it's like these.
Yeah,
there's a lot of
I've met some Hollywood parents.
It's so much, and like the fake families on the internet, they're like, we're a family, and then the parents are like out cheating on each other, like not involved in each other's lives at all. Big example. Okay, overrated. I'll say one person's name. But it's not a secret. Like everyone's kind of come for his neck and finally been able to see.
I feel like I'm gonna guess, but go ahead.
Who? Just Austin McBroom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Ace family.
Yes,
right?
The Ace family is a great example of people that are not at all what they say they are on the internet. So when I first came out to LA when I was 18, I had a very weird experience with Austin. And, years and years later, it finally came out. But it's really hard to watch people who are not necessarily good people at heart have so much success for so long and get away with it.
What's your hope for mankind?
My hope for mankind is just fucking peace, man. I'm like, can we all just chill for a second? Like, there's so much.
Good luck.
I know.
I know it's sad.
Like,
I agree with
peace.
You though. I think we should cancel comments on the internet.
I think that's a good idea.
Just
I
keep
think
our
that
opinions to ourselves.
It should be highly
I think that would be really positive.
Yeah, more filtered or more, because I think that the discussion online is important. I think that the whole reason the internet exists is freedom of speech. Like for example, on my Instagram, have been getting so many posts removed lately because I'm showing a little bit of side boob or I'm showing
on Instagram?
Yes.
So Instagram is following the way of TikTok.
Yes. Instagram is trying to be like TikTok, which I think is so annoying because Instagram is already amazing. Stop changing shit. You're going to ruin your shit. I'm like, please stop switching. Like they're trying to do reels and copy TikTok. Yeah, it's all the comment section, like freedom of speech. Like the whole reason I jumped online was because there were other people who related to my mental health stuff. I talked about it once and people were like, oh, I also struggle with panic attacks. I'm like, wow, it's so cool. Like that's the whole reason we get on the internet in the first place is because it's a cathartic experience where you can relate to other people about what they're going through and how you relate to it. So I don't think comments are inherently bad, but I do think that too many people have an opinion now and not everybody should be able to voice that opinion unless you're like...
Well, it's not that there's not too many people have opinions. Everyone has access to give their opinion now.
That was worded better.
Yeah.
Or that they're able to directly share that opinion on that person's page. Like, I don't know. OnlyFans is like a controversial thing, but I like OnlyFans because you have to put in an ID and a credit card before you can join the platform. So it's like, this isn't a bot. This isn't some person pretending they're not to be. Like, are
you on OnlyFans?
I am.
And how? In what capacity? Because there's a lot of range, and I think probably some ignorance around what that means.
Yeah, OnlyFans obviously has a bad rap, but it's a platform like anything else, so you can post whatever you want on there. You can post selfies, you can post pictures of your dog, or you can do porn. Like it's like one or the other. Like people have, just like with Twitter, with Instagram, like some people post really provocative content or it's like a cooking page for you. So it's whatever you want it to be. That stigma around the platform was very annoying and I saw...
Do you drop music on there? Can you?
You can. You can drop music early.
Couldn't you like preview, like your music?
I have done that. I post DJing sets, like private DJ sets on there so people can consume online, like live stream DJ sets.
That's pretty cool.
And I talk about topics that you can't necessarily talk about on the internet, like religion and sex and like stuff like that. So I have like long ass convos with people. And I post anything that I can't now post on Instagram that gets taken down. So
all the side boob.
All the side boob is
on OnlyFans. For your side boob needs.
I have shot suggestive content since I was 18, like bikini stuff. Like I work with a lot of bikini brands. I did travel content, right? So in a bathing suit a lot. I don't think that the female form is something that should be hidden or ashamed of. I've literally watched from like when you did post side boob, people being like, this is terrible. You're, I don't know. It was very frowned upon. And now it's like kind of normal. Like people, I mean, there's still some controversy around it, but it's been really cool to see women become more empowered with like showing their body and who they are and not being afraid. Like guys can fucking take off their shirt and be wearing boxers and it's like, wow. And then a girl wears a bikini and it's like, you whore. Like, I'm like, how does this even make any sense? But it's become a lot more normalized and OnlyFans also was a part of that, I believe.
So the stigma that OnlyFans has.
That's a personal decision. Like that would be like people being like, Instagram is bad.
Because I think a lot of people, but I think a lot of people, especially like women who go on it, right? Would immediately assume the worst if they found if they're like heard someone was on OnlyFans.
Yeah, I think it can be used in a very negative way. Like I do not believe girls that are, you know, fresh out of high school who just turned 18 who like are only doing OnlyFans as a job. I think that's terrible. Like it should just be, as I've always said with any social media platform, whether it's OnlyFans, Instagram, YouTube, it shouldn't be a way for you to show off things that you're doing in your real life. It should not be your full-time job. Like I could not have Instagram be my full-time job. I just don't think that would make anybody happy. Having social media be like the only thing that you do. I think it should be a way to show off things you're doing in your real life.
Well said.
So just to clarify, I do not post any nude photos or any sort of pornography on my OnlyFans. I've tried to use it as in my opinion, OnlyFans is for creators, one of the best ways you can actually make money. So like on Instagram, you can't make any money from Instagram at all. If I want to get paid for taking pictures or doing shit, I have to go get those sponsorships or those advertisements myself. Otherwise, I'm not guaranteed anything. What's really cool about OnlyFans, if I spend 2 days making a video and post it, it's not just for free. I actually get paid like for that content, like people to consume and pay to support me as a content creator instead of just doing it for free all the time, which I do not think is right either. Like TikTok at least has the monetization tool where like X amount of views, you get some money. With Instagram, it's nothing. And if you really think about that, for people that are just doing social media, it's kind of you just get screwed over a little bit. Like I'm like, people are spending all day, every day making videos, taking pictures, and they don't get anything for it. So OnlyFans is great for that.
Well, it's great to hear. I mean, yeah, I think it's, especially for people who have been able to use it to make money, put a value on their creations.
You can put a podcast on there.
It's nice to, yeah. I have some podcasts on the Patreon platform.
Yeah, Patreon is very similar to OnlyFans.
All right, Charly. Thank you so much. Before we let you go, we like to play just a real easy game called Do You Know Me? It's about if we know you. So I'm just going to ask some questions, the real basic questions, selected by our team.
Say, you forgot my name.
I wasn't going to say, I didn't know who selected, if it was Allie and Amanda.
I was too busy editing.
Amanda thinks I always forget her name.
He did not forget your name.
The pause.
It's because she dyed her hair. I don't know who I'm.
Like, who is this?
Who the fuck?
Strange woman who calls herself my assistant.
Yeah. It's real simple. So I'll ask you a question. Yes or no answers are fine. Anecdotal stories are welcome, but not required.
Okay.
Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know me with Charly Jordan? Would Charly rather live where it snows year-round over a place where the temperature never falls below 100 degrees?
I'll take the 100 degrees.
I think I could have guessed that. There was a lot of discussions of bikinis.
Tropical, yes. Yeah. Very much so my vibe.
Can Charly pitch a tent?
Yes.
Has Charly ever crashed a party? Of course.
Obviously.
Has Charly ever cut her own hair?
Yes. Too many times. That's me.
Did you ever
have some sort of like freak out and I'm like, bangs.
Are you good at cutting your own hair?
I'm actually really good at cutting my own hair for that reason.
All right, a little tougher. Can Charly name at least 3 Shakespeare plays?
Hamlet, Romeo and Juliet. What's another one?
Just if you feel bad, like the first time I asked this question, I didn't have 3.
Hamlet, Romeo and Juliet, Shakespeare. You're gonna have to give me the third one.
There's more. Taming of the Shrew, right?
Oh, Taming of the Shrew. Wow.
And I only know that because of 10 Things I Hate About You is an adaptation of Taming of the Shrew.
Interesting. Yeah, it is.
What are some other ones?
Othello, Macbeth.
Oh, yes, Macbeth. Really did not like that in school.
Has Charly washed their sheets this past week?
Yes. My dog keeps peeing on my bed.
Your dog pees in your bed? Jeff would never.
We sleep. Well, she spends. We cuddle.
Jeff would never.
She's a puppy. I just got her. She's like 17 weeks.
No. What kind of dog?
Mini golden doodle.
I have an Australian Cobra dog, which is kind of the same.
Is that your dog tattooed on your arm?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my dog.
What's your dog's name?
Oh my dog.
Mila.
Okay. Does Charly like country music?
I do. The Utah part of my life. Put that in my heart and soul.
All right, just a reminder. Amanda selected this question. Just like it's appropriate with some of these. Has Charly ever had sex on the first date?
No.
How do you feel about that? Are you for it, against it? It's not for you?
I just can't. It's not even like
but in
something.
General, you can't, or do you think it's something people shouldn't do?
No, to each their own.
Okay.
I honestly am like, some people can't like attach to people emotionally at all and just like the physical stuff. So whatever floats your boat.
Does Charly own any sex toys?
Why?
Like, I just think it's like.
I feel like I put all.
No, it's.
I feel like I try to put all the weird, freaky sex ones at the back. For like, if there's like.
No, it's totally fine. It's
a funky note, and then back to back, I feel like such a creep.
It's more like as the older guy, like I'm just like, of course Nick wants to know, Charly.
No.
I just feel like I need to disclaim.
He's like, this is not me.
My. You know.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
And I've actually talked about that. That is something I talk about on my OnlyFans too. I think it's important that girls understand what it is that they like and what they need. I think it's a bit different for guys. It's a little bit easier for guys. So as someone who comes from a conservative religion that actually like fucked up a lot of the ways I viewed myself and physical stuff, I think it's good that you go get sex toys and learn what you like.
Follow-up question to that. In relationships, how much communication do you like to have early on about what you like in bed, or do you expect the guy to figure it out?
When I was younger, I would expect the guy to figure it out because I didn't even know what I liked myself, and that was the problem.
Sure.
So I think that communication is really important. When people used to tell me that, I was kind of like, I'm like, it's just an emotional thing. Like, you should be able to feel it out. But also, as I got older, realizing that guys are not as emotional as women, which I think is just like across the board.
Generally, sure.
Maybe when you're younger, right? Like, I feel like as I get older, it gets a little bit more evened out. But particularly for my age, 22-year-old guys, like they're not really thinking about like, oh, I like really need to be in tune with this woman and like understand what she needs, and like that just doesn't happen. Like,
do you find that 22 like young men are because I think some of the common criticism is all the guys think they're awesome at sex, you know, and they don't ask questions, they don't pay attention, and when they get feedback from women, or maybe someone wants to introduce a sex toy into the bedroom, they get defensive, they make it about them, they think it's a reflection of their masculinity. And is that true, or do you see that, or do you depend? It is. And how do you go about handling that situation? What advice would you give to other women?
The advice that I would give is obviously which is not necessarily for you, but definitely go about it in like a sensitive way, because guys do get very offended by that, even though it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with them. Like I was
doesn't have anything to do with them.
It doesn't have anything to do with them. Raised in a very conservative religion, I was very uncomfortable like being naked and with myself just in general for years. And it was when I found like sex toys that I was like, oh, this is what I like and this is what I don't like. Whereas before I would just expect them to figure it out. So I think that for women it's good to know what you like before going into the bedroom, because if you're like trying to figure it out with somebody else, and not that that's like a bad thing, but it can be very demotivating for the guy. Unless you find a guy who is able to remove their ego from like that whole process, because making a girl finish shouldn't be like, oh yeah, I fucking made her finish. Like that's an accomplishment for you. Like when I wouldn't finish, guys would be annoyed at me or feel like they did something wrong, and made me feel even worse on top of the fact that I already couldn't do that, which I had no control over either. I'm like, trust me, I want to. Like this isn't my fucking choice. Like I don't know what's going on. So it took me understanding myself, being very clear, again, like direct, like do this way. And guys actually, in my experience, like being told what to do. I guess it depends on the way you do it. Like as long as you're direct, right? And there's not like, oh, well, like this just doesn't, like when you like are trying to explain yourself and you're kind of all over the place, like it just makes them confused. So like I really just figured it out. It was very clear. Very direct with guys, and I feel like that's what you really have to do at the end of the day.
Final question. Have you ever ghosted or been ghosted by someone? And I mean like ghosted, not like flaked on, but like someone you have an expectation of communicating with the following day and they just disappear.
Nope. I will hunt you down. I will fucking hunt you down. Absolutely not. We do not deal with disrespectful ass people like that. I'm sorry. I've never ghosted anyone. And actually, that is my biggest pet peeve in life, is when people are unable to communicate and they're selfish like that and just do whatever's convenient for them and dip out. So I've actually never been friends with anyone who would ever do that and have never truly been ghosted.
All right, Charly. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you for having me on.
Love the conversation. Please let my audience know where they can consume more of your content if they haven't already.
Instagram is Charly Jordan, CHARLY with a Y, across all platforms for YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and then check out my companies, Smoke Roses and Beauty and Pain. I'm going to be obviously have lots of DJ shows coming up. I have my residency in Vegas, so I'm there every single month. If you're out there, come to a show. And then I'm going on tour with Cheat Codes in January, which is really exciting. So I'll be all over the East Coast. But yeah, you can find all that stuff on my Instagram. Thanks so much for having me on.
Thanks for coming on.
Great questions.
You'll have to come on one of our Ask Nick episodes and help me give Well, we have people call in with their relationship problems and challenges, and
I would love to be a part of that.
Give my 2 cents. Don't forget to send your questions at asknick@castmedia.com, cast with a K, for those episodes. If you're tuning in to listen to Charly, welcome. We do have those episodes every Monday. If you find yourself in a situationship, you know what the fuck's going on and you're tired of asking your friends, we got you covered. Also, if you enjoy watching The Bachelor, Bachelorette, or Bachelor in Paradise, we recap those shows. And like our conversations with Charly, we always have fascinating, interesting guests and experts every Wednesday. If there's nothing else, we'll see you back on Monday. Bye.
Having fun, just an introvert. I like that.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. But before you go, make sure you like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss any future videos like our Mondays Ask Nick for your favorite relationship stories and advice, and our Tuesday Bachelor recaps. See you next time.